What's going on, everyone? I hope you guys enjoyed the new channel intro. I really enjoyed it. Spent like 5 hours making it last night, so I really hope you guys do enjoy. But anyways, we're going to be talking about wide receiver rankings for week 3 for fantasy football. Help you guys out with your starts and decisions. Again, before we get into it, if you guys could, please go down, leave a like, leave a comment. I am answering every single comment, whether it be trade discussions, start sits, anything. More than happy to discuss with you guys down below. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. Would mean the world to me. You guys can absolutely crush your league mates. With that out of the way, let's hop right into our top 6, our S tier wide receivers in Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Jamarr Chase, Stefon Diggs, Davante Adams, and a sneaky surprise Tyreek Hill. Okay, so my top wide receiver for this week, my number 1 guy is Cooper Kupp. If you have him, you're starting him. They're playing the Cardinals, and the Cardinals secondary looks awful this season, letting up 45 points to the Chiefs and almost absolutely blowing it to the Raiders. Then we got Justin Jefferson playing up against the Lions. The Lions have let up a ton of points in their first 2 weeks. I would not be surprised if Justin Jefferson has a bounce-back game and absolutely feasts. Same thing with Jamarr Chase. Jamarr Chase is playing the Jets, and it's the Jets, enough said. I don't think they're going to be doing anything massive in this game. Then we got Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs absolutely cooked. I was shocked to see him get 3 touchdowns. Normally, he's not a touchdown guy. But a guy I do really like, a guy I think is undervalued this season, or was undervalued coming into the season. And he was playing the Dolphins. The Dolphins game should project to be a shootout in which the Bills are ahead. But the Bills have proven that no matter what the game script, they are willing to throw the ball to Stefon Diggs, even if they're up 41-7. Then we got Tyreek Hill in the same game against the Bills. I am scared about the matchup, yes, but Tua looked like a baller in week 2. I think that this Dolphins team may surprise some people. The spread is 5.5. I think it's possible that the Dolphins can cover. And if that's the case, this game will be a shootout, so I could see the Dolphins covering. I think Tyreek Hill and Stefon Diggs are absolute must-starts this week. And then we got Davante Adams. They are playing the 0-2 Titans. This game is interesting because both teams are 0-2. The Raiders and the Titans, one of these teams is going to be going 0-3. I think Davante Adams is a must-start, even with the lackluster Week 2 performance. But now let's move on to the A tier of guys. Starting off this next tier, guys, I got Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel going up against the Broncos, well, yes, it is a tough matchup. Jimmy G is now in, and that is the guy that Deebo Samuel had the most success with last year. So I am thinking that Deebo Samuel may return to his former state of being that guy in the offense where he does get 10 targets and also gets 5 rushes. And if that's the case, I think he could easily be an S-tier guy. I just think the matchup against the Broncos is a little tough. And then we got A.J. Brown and the Eagles going up against the Commanders. We saw at week 1 how good A.J. Brown looks. Well, yes, I don't think this offense is going to have a ton of passing yards to go around. If we can see 250 yards a game on average from Jalen Hurts, that makes Jalen Hurts a must-start, and that makes A.J. Brown a must-start every single week. Even though the passing touchdowns might not necessarily be there for A.J. Brown, I think he's too talented of a player to have anywhere lower, especially in an offense that looks electric as the Eagles. And we got 2 number 2s. We got T. Higgins. We got Jaylen Waddle. T. Higgins is going up against the Jets. I think this is just too easy of a matchup. A nice layup for T. Higgins. T. Higgins looked like an absolute beast. Even coming off of a concussion, not really getting practice in, he still gets 80 yards and a touchdown. Not something you can complain about. And then we have Jaylen Waddle here. Jaylen Waddle ranked this high because, 1, he is super duper talented. One of the fastest players in the NFL alongside Tyreek Hill. And then 2, that explosion of a game last week, 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, 19 targets. Justin Fields didn't even throw the ball 19 times. He threw the ball 11 times, and that's how many receptions Jaylen Waddle had. Well, yes, he will come back down to earth after a game like that. He will regress. I think after seeing a performance like that, you have to rank Jaylen Waddle higher because his offense looks absolutely electric, and I can't see him putting up duds this season with how talented he is. Then we got Amon going up against the Vikings. I like Amon a ton. I think he's a very, very talented wide receiver, and his performances the first 2 weeks have been absolutely ridiculous. Dropping 16 fantasy points and 35. Well, I think 35 is just a tiny bit out of reach. Amon is so talented that I could see him being a potential league winner this season, and that's why I have him ranked so aggressively right now. Even if he drops 13 points, comes back down to earth, I still think he's a phenomenal wide receiver, and this offense is surprisingly pretty good. They were one of my picks this season to be a team that upset a lot of people, and I'm sure that is because of Hard Knocks. A lot of people kind of think that way, but at the same time, I think Amon-Ra will upset a lot of people. and make people very, very happy if you own him in fantasy. The last player in my A tier, though, is Mike Williams. Mike Williams is going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we know this already. We know the deal. Even though the Jacksonville Jaguars did just curb stomp the Colts, the Jaguars are not going to be a good team this year. I don't think anyone's expecting them to make playoffs, go far, anything like that. The Chargers should go up early in this game, take a lead, and it should be through Mike Williams. That's why I do have him in my A tier. The only thing is they might take their feet off the gas pedal early because they're going to be destroying so bad. So Mike Williams might be taken out of the game. He might not play much. He might not be utilized much. They may try and get the Joshua Palmers, DeAndre Carters more involved. And Keenan Allen may be coming back. Also, this is a round where I'd have Keenan. I think Keenan and Mike Williams would both be around low A tier, high B tier. When both of them play, I don't have Keenan ranked right now because, one, he hasn't played in a couple weeks now, and he's on the fence. I really don't think he's going to play. But anyways, that is it for my A tier. Let's move on to the B tier here. Next, we do got the B tier guys here. Starting it off, we got Michael Pittman. And Michael Pittman is playing the Chiefs. I could have made a case to have him higher because he is playing the Chiefs. This does project to be a shootout. But Michael Pittman did miss last week with an injury. I do think I would like to see him get back from that injury before I'd rank him any higher, just because it may still be lingering for him. I'm confident he will play, but at the same time, I would like to see it before I rank him any higher. Nonetheless, this is a great matchup against the Chiefs. He should cook. Then we got CeeDee Lamb going up against the Giants. I think CeeDee Lamb would be much higher. The problem is Dak is injured. We got Cooper Rush coming in to play. I don't see CeeDee Lamb having a path to a ceiling that he did with Dak, with Cooper Rush now. I think Cooper Rush still will provide some nice floor for him. I think CeeDee Lamb is still a lock for at least 7 or 8 targets, but I don't think those targets are going to be nearly as quality. That's why I do have him high up in the B tier. But if we do see a good connection between him and Cooper Rush, I am fine moving him up to A tier. I think he's a guy who's super talented and can easily move up to A tier if he does play better. They are playing the New York Giants. The Giants, it's the Giants. Yes, they are 2-0. I'm a Giants fan. But at the same time, it's the Giants. I mean, I don't think they present a massive challenge on defense, although the defense has looked good. So, CeeDee Lamb, a high B tier here. Next, we got Courtland Sutton going up against the 49ers. The 49ers defense is really, really good, very talented. But I think Courtland Sutton is also a very talented player. He has built a connection with Russ. And now we have Jerry Jeudy potentially missing a game. So, Courtland Sutton will be the only wide receiver in this offense. And if that's the case, I am fine taking Courtland Sutton here because Russell Wilson's going to be extremely reliant on him. Yes, the Broncos haven't looked great to start the season, but at the same time, they got to pick it up eventually. Russell Wilson's too good of a player. Courtland Sutton's too good of a player for them to be that awful that consistently. So I do think they will have a bounce-back game. That's why I do have Courtland Sutton ranked in the middle of B tier. Next, we got Gabe Davis, and Gabe Davis is a guy that is coming back from an injury as well. They are optimistic he will play week 3. He was limited in practice Wednesday, but at the same time, this is a guy I'm very confident will play week 3. And we saw what happens when Josh Allen is missing Gabe Davis. All the touchdowns went to Stefon Diggs. There is no way that's happening again. Once Gabe Davis is back, he will be back to his regular touchdown-a-game type of vibe. I think Gabe Davis is an absolute must-start because of the offense. And they are playing the Dolphins, which should be a shootout. Gabe Davis is a must-start. I really like him here. But anyways, let's move on to the last player in our B tier. Michael Thomas is playing the Panthers. I think the Panthers do present a little bit of a challenge on defense. But at the same time, we do have Michael Thomas. We do have Chris Olave. Both of these players look really, really good to start the season. My one question mark is Jameis. Jameis coming in playing with back fractures. I have no idea how you could play an NFL game with back fractures. But somehow he was limited in practice on Wednesday, so it is possibly plays. And if that's the case, Jameis, Olave, and Michael Thomas should all be absolutely fine as fantasy starts. That's going to wrap it up for my B tier. To start the C tier, we got Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, a guy, well, yes, he is playing the Chargers. The Chargers do have a very tough defense. If anyone is getting the ball in the Jaguars, it's going to be Christian Kirk. Getting 15 fantasy points and 23 fantasy points in his first 2 weeks, putting up 12 receptions and 12 targets and 6 targets. This guy is going to be heavily utilized in the offense. Trevor Lawrence clearly has built up a chemistry with him already, and they should be playing from behind, which means Christian Kirk should be getting the ball just a little bit more. Then we got Diontae Johnson, the king of consistency. He's pretty much a lock for 10 targets. He's a lock for 6 or 7 receptions. And if that's the case, in half-point PPR or above, I think he's an absolutely fine start no matter what. Yes, Mitch Trubisky looks bad. Yes, Kenny Pickett might not look good when he takes over this job because of Mitch Trubisky's ineptitude. But at the same time, Diontae Johnson is still a phenomenal NFL talent. And if he were on any other team, he would most likely be an A-tier or a high B-tier player. The only problem is Mitch stinks. They do play tonight against the Browns, and the Browns, I thought they had a good defense coming in, but they let up 31 points against the Jets, so I am a tad bit concerned. They also let up 24 points against the Panthers, so I'm a tad bit concerned, but I still think Diontae Johnson. But because of that, I think Diontae Johnson will have a good game. Then we got Allen Robinson going up against the Cardinals. Again, I think the Cardinals have an absolutely awful secondary, and Allen Robinson should take advantage of that. Matt Stafford's only getting more and more comfortable with Allen Robinson as time goes on, so I think they're going to use this game as a chance to get him even more accustomed. I think in games that project to be blowouts, they're going to try and get Allen Robinson involved a ton to build chemistry with Matt Stafford. And also, I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to have to start trying to take away Cooper Kupp. And if that's the case, Allen Robinson's just going to start to feast. He looked pretty good in week 2. Should have had 2 touchdowns, only had 1. But we'll see what happens. I think he is a pretty good start decision in the C tier here. Next up, we got DJ Moore. DJ Moore, not a guy who has been doing all that great so far in fantasy, but a guy who's always been pretty boom or bust. He's like a Mike Williams type, except he has a much worse quarterback. Baker Mayfield does not look all that good. The Saints also have a pretty tough defense, but I think DJ Moore will start to be more and more heavily utilized as he builds chemistry with Baker Mayfield, because Baker Mayfield has only been a starter in this offense for like a month. Matt Rule made sure there was going to be competition between him and Sam Darnold, so he didn't really get reps with DJ Moore with Robbie Anderson. Now I think he will, and that's why I do have him in low-end C tier. But let's move on. We got our last player here in C tier. In Rashod Bateman. Rashod Bateman, a guy I might have liked to had a little bit higher, potentially over DJ Moore. My problem is, well, he has looked really, really good to start the season. The targets haven't necessarily been there, only putting up 12. That's 6 targets a game, which isn't really all that great. We probably will see a heavier usage for Rashod Bateman as the weeks go on. But for right now, I just am a little concerned that he's been more heavily involved on the deep play, whereas he hasn't really had as much usage as we would have liked in other areas of the field. But I still think he has tons of room to move up. I still do have him in C tier. He is still a start here unless your wide receivers are really, really good. But anyways, that's it for the C tier. Let's move on to the D tier now. The next 3 of these guys are all wide receiver ones on their offenses, but their offenses are either struggling or the talent just simply isn't there. First, we got Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard only getting 3 targets. Yes, he did get a touchdown that salvaged his week, but we've been seeing true usage of Allen Lazard without Davante Adams. And until we see that, I can't really rank him any higher. I think it will come. He does have a lot of chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, but week 2 coming off an ankle injury, I was a little bit concerned. Didn't really get too much usage, and they are going up against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers do have a pretty strong defense, so I am a little bit concerned. Next, we got Hollywood Brown going up against the Rams. The Rams do present a tough matchup. He will be on Jalen Ramsey, and Jalen Ramsey is very tough. We haven't really seen Hollywood Brown produce either. Even though he does have 11 targets, he only reels in 6 receptions for under 70 yards. It is a little bit underwhelming. Also, his week 1 got salvaged by a touchdown in garbage time. I think Hollywood is a really good receiver and can rise way above this, but until we see him really have a monster game, I can't put him anywhere higher. But anyways, the last guy we got in a totally different situation. This guy is supremely talented, but the situation is terrible. I'm talking about Brandin Cooks. Brandin Cooks going up against the Bears. The Bears do like to be pretty bad. Yes, their defense has performed the first 2 weeks, but in week 1, they just went up against the monsoon, which made it a lot easier for them. And then in week 2, they got curb stomped by the Packers. But in week 2, they got curb stomped by the Packers. So I'm thinking Brandin Cooks will probably have a good game. Yes, he hasn't really looked too good to start the season, But he's all Davis Mills has, him and Nico Collins, so I think he will be more heavily utilized. But that is it for this tier. Let's move on to our last tier here. We got what I like to call the rookie tier. Starting it off, we got Drake London. Drake London looking really, really good as a rookie. In his second game, dropping 21 fantasy points. That's just awesome. So far, he has 19 targets, and he's pretty much the only player in this offense outside of Kyle Pitts that can catch the ball. So I am pretty happy with him. He is going up against the Seattle Seahawks as well, and the Seahawks do not present much of a challenge. This is a game that the Falcons should actually win, or could actually win, which sounds pretty far-fetched because the Falcons don't really win a lot. But I think the Falcons stand a chance here. Then next up, we got Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Garrett Wilson looks like an absolute monster in week 2. Getting 14 targets for 8 receptions and catching the game-winning touchdown. I think Garrett Wilson is a really, really good player, going 10th overall in the draft. And we are seeing Flacco again, and if that's the case, I am absolutely fine taking Garrett Wilson there, because Flacco has looked to support Garrett Wilson a ton. The reason why I have him below Drake London is because he also has Elijah Moore to compete with. And because of that, I think Elijah Moore may steal more targets in the long term than Kyle Pitts. I think it's more of a balancing out situation than with Kyle Pitts. But anyways, next we got Chris Olave going up against the Panthers. I like Chris Olave a lot. Well, yes, he didn't look that great from a fantasy perspective in week 2. Jameis was trying to get the ball to him deep consistently, and you figure they should connect more and more as the season goes on with something like that. But 13 targets, that's really what we're looking for, and that's what he got. He's also operating as the number 2 behind Michael Thomas, and if that's the case, I'm fine taking Chris Olave, because he's not drawing number 1 cornerback play, and the Panthers do present a relatively tough matchup, so that's why I have him as the 3rd of these 3 wide receivers, but I still think an absolutely fine player. The last 2 guys we're going to talk about here, Curtis Samuel and Amari Cooper. Curtis Samuel does have a relatively tough matchup going up against Slay and the Eagles, but at the same time, Curtis Samuel is looking like somebody who's produced a ton. They signed him to a lot of money last offseason, and they clearly want to use him. They clearly have a good game plan for him. When he's going out and getting 20 targets and 2 touchdowns in his first 2 weeks, I do see this usage continuing, but on a smaller scale. Also, he gets utilized in the rushing department, which adds a fantasy point or 2 per game. I could have him way higher than this. The reason why I don't is because I think the Commanders are due to regress a little bit. Yes, they look great their first 2 weeks, but I'm not sure how long that continues for. And then lastly, we got Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, on any given week, I am scared he's going to drop 3, but he also has the potential to drop 20. He is one of those type of Mike Williams wide receivers, but in a much worse offense. That's why I have him here. Once he gets Deshaun Watson back, I think he's going to be great for fantasy, but until then, I am a little bit concerned. But anyways, that is it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy my top 30 fantasy football wide receiver rankings for week 3. If you guys did, please go down, leave a like, leave a comment. Again, I am answering every single comment, every single question you all have, whether it be trades, starts, sits, anything. More than happy to hear it. And subscribe to the channel, turn that notification bell on. We are 1 subscriber away from 50. So I'm really excited. We're going to be putting out fantasy football content every day. But anyways, that's it from me. If you guys enjoyed, have a good day, a good night, and a good life.